feature presentation.
Mohammed, thank you so much for taking the time to do this. I'm sure you've been asked 100 questions about, not just the film, but about your exile from Iran and living in Germany. But I wanted to start by asking you, since the film has played at Cannes and has won the Special Jury Prize and has been critically acclaimed, Neon comes in to distribute the film in the US, following with studios like Elevation Pictures here in Canada. But that juxtaposition of you being exiled in combination with also worrying about fellow cast and crew in terms of their predicament, I wanted to ask you, how do you feel about this current moment you're experiencing?
خوبه.
سوال خوبیه ولی خیلی سخته جواب دادن بهش، برای اینکه واقعا یه حس یه دست نیست که تمام اوقات آدم بتونه یه احساساتی رو با خودش نگه داره. معمولا یه فراز و نشیبی است. به هر حال هنوز گروه من در ایران زیر فشارن. گاهی اوقات اخباری میشنوم که خیلی عمیقا منو تحت تاثیر قرار میده. گاهی اوقات موفقیت‌های فیلم به من میگه که میشه با وجود سرکوب خیلی زیاد تلاش کرد که از سانسور گریخت. گاهی اوقات به خودم میگم که خب چه حیف که فیلم بعدیمو نمیتونم تو ایران بسازم. ولی برای همه اینا همیشه یه ایده واحد وجود داره که همه اینا رو به هم وصل میکنه، و اینکه در مقابل سانسور و سرکوب حکومتی زانو نزدم خیلی احساس خوبی به من میده و بقیهش واقعا همه چیز برام زیر این احساس معنی پیدا میکنه که ایستادگی در برابر قدرت مستبد.
So it's a very good question, and it's not an easy one to answer in the sense that I've got high and lows, and there's definitely not just one feeling, one primary feeling. As you know, the cast, I'm very worried for my cast and crew inside Iran. I receive awful news from time to time. At the same time, I'm very heartened by the success of the film. And it also tells me that, oh, well, then if you try very hard, there is a way to tell stories that do not comply with censorship and that are true to what's happening inside the country. And then I also feel that, oh my God, I so wish I could make my next film inside Iran, and I cannot. So it's complex, but the one underlying sense is that I am very happy that I did not kneel to censorship and totalitarianism.
Absolutely. There's something that I was curious in listening and watching some of your interviews. You mentioned self-censorship and sort of going past the fear of being direct in terms of representing the meaning of your films. Do you look at your past work differently now, having made the seed of the Sacred Fig?
میکنید گذاشته یعنی کارنامه‌تون.
اعتراف میکنم که در یه سیستم استبدادی وقتی کار میکنید و سانسور وجود داره، هیچ جا شما رو رها نمیکنه. یعنی حتی سانسور در دانه انجیر معابد هم وجود داره. یعنی نه به این معنا که سانسور اومده یه چیزی رو برداشته یا یه چیزی رو گذاشته، بلکه بر من محدودیتایی رو ایجاد کرده که نتونستم اونجوری که کاملا دوست دارم و کاملا اراده میخوام بکنم فیلمم بسازم. درسته که من در تقابل با سانسور دارم یه داستان تعریف میکنم، ولی ترسا، محدودیت‌ها باعث شده که من یه شیوه خاصی رو برای داستانگویی انتخاب کنم. بنابراین انگار هنوز سایه سانسور رو سر داستانگویی من هست.
So I must confess that when you live under a totalitarian regime, everything you do is affected by censorship. So even with the Seed of the Sacred Fig, there are many things that I did not. Even this film is impacted by censorship, in the sense that there are many things I wanted to film, not in the sense that, you know, the censorship apparatus come and cut certain scenes out of the film, but in the sense that many things I would have liked to film differently, I could not film that way because I was operating under censorship, even if I was directly defying it. And this forced me to find a different way of telling the story, which was nonetheless imbued with limitations and censorship.
من نمیخوام سانسور رو به این دلیل که آدم‌ها رو، فیلمسازا رو، هنرمندا رو خلاق‌تر میکنه ستایش کنم، چون با این ایده مخالفم و فکر میکنم آزادی چیزای بزرگتری به انسان میده تا محدودیت یا خلاقیتایی که به واسطه روبرو شدن با محدودیت به وجود میاد. اما به هر حال چاره ای جز این وجود نداره که شما با خلاقیت به جنگ سانسور برید.
I don't want to commend censorship as a tool that encourages creativity, because I think that freedom really affords people more altogether, even creatively. But of course, when you are living under censorship, you have to go to war with it.
Do you see yourself as a political filmmaker, or do you see yourself as more one now? Because I remember watching Jafar Pahani's This Is Not a Film, and him talking about grappling with you know, the sense of being both a filmmaker frustrated being under house arrest, but also what his responsibility was as a filmmaker to the people and to an audience.
مسئولیت نسبت به یه مخاطبی هم داشت.
بله، اگه از من بپرسید، منم فکر میکنم من فقط یه فیلم سازم که دارم قصه یه خانواده رو تعریف میکنم، ولی سیستم استبدادی، قدرت استبدادی در ایران تحمل شنیدن نداره و دست به سرکوب میزنه. اساساً اگر این سرکوبا نباشه، اساساً اگر آزادی بیان باشه، حتما نگاه فیلمسازا تغییر میکنه، حتما نگاه من تغییر میکنه. من به شیوه دیگری میتونم فیلم بسازم که شاید موضوعات دیگری توجه منو جلب کنه، ولی الان اون چیزی که میبینم اینه که یه اتفاقی داره دور برم میفته، این تبدیل به یه داستان میشه و اولین چیزی که به ذهنم میرسه که من نمیتونم این داستان رو تعریف کنم. بنابراین اون چیزی که اثر هنری رو خیلی اوقات سیاسی میکنه خود ذات اثر نیست، برخوردیه که با اثر میشه از طرف قدرت سیاسی.
So if you ask me, I would say that I'm simply a filmmaker trying to tell a story about a family. But what happens under a totalitarian regime that does not tolerate hearing anything and can only reply by repressing you is that you sort of have to, you find a responsibility to tell stories that engage with that. And if the circumstances in Iran were different, I think people more generally, and also filmmakers, their perspective would naturally change and they would be able to make films about many other things. But I think often what happens again under these circumstances is that it's not so much that the work is political per se, but the way that the state interacts with the work, the way it represses it, turns it into a political act.
Something that I was curious about, narratively speaking, was what's your approach to creating a microcosm that's critical of the Iranian government when investigating tradition versus modernity? Did you uncover anything surprising from the past that informed the film's current themes?
من بیشتر تحت تاثیر مطالعات جامعه شناسا هستم توی این قضیه و اینکه به نظر اغلب جامعه شناسای برجسته ایرانی 150 سال گذشته در تاریخ معاصر ایران میدان منازعه سنت و مدرنیته بوده و نیروهای سیاسی اینو به بهترین شکل توی فضای سیاسی به نمایش در آوردن. 90 سال پیش حدوداً قدرت سیاسی تلاش میکرد چادر رو از سر زنها به طور یعنی با زور بکنه، موفق نشد و امروز قدرت سیاسی تلاش میکنه حجاب رو سر زنها نگه داره، موفق نمیشه. بنابراین این یک نگاهیه که میشه به مقاومت زنها از گذشته تا امروز داشت و اونو یه زنجیره از اتفاقهای تاریخی دید.
So, from this regard, I'm very much indebted to the work of great Iranian sociologists, all of whom perceive the last 150 years of Iranian history as a battlefield between the forces of modernity and those of tradition. And we can see this very clearly, for instance, in the fact that political power about 90 years ago tried to force women to stop wearing the chador, which did not work. And right now, political power is instead trying to force the mandatory headscarf on women. And I think the struggle we see at the moment for women's rights is just the last the last ring in a much more ancient chain of the struggle.
در این حال میتونید مثالای نزدیکتری پیدا کنید. همین امروز همونطور که تو داستان میبینید شما دو نسل رو میبینید که دسترسی خودش به واقعیت رو چطوری انتخاب میکنه. نسل جدید کوشش میکنه که از طریق شبکه‌های اجتماعی به واقعیتی که دور و برش داره اتفاق میفته بدون واسطه دسترسی پیدا کنه. اما نسلی که در گذشته وجود داره همچنان در برابر تلویزیونی که تو مشت حکومت مستبد هست و واقعیت رو باش دستکاری میکنه میشینه و انگار راه ارتباطی خودش با جهان رو با واقعیت رو از طریق اون انتخاب میکنه. مواجهه دو نسل اینجا به خوبی آشکار میشه.
And then looking at a more recent example that we see in the film, for instance, how do two different generations relate to truth and to finding the truth of what's happening in the outside world? We see the younger generation that is seeking access to what's happening via unfiltered, uncensored social media. And on the other hand, we see the older generation getting its news and therefore its relationship with truth with television, which of course in Iran is state controlled and provides you with a fabricated version of the truth.
Now I have time for one more question. And so I was wanting to know, because you've talked about sort of almost being on a chasm when it comes to being on set versus, the set that's being shot, but you not being there and also shooting in secret. What kind of critical thinking goes into the writing process that's beyond the screenplay? Are you having to think about on-set technical logistics like that in the writing process?
در اون پروسه باشن.
حقیقتش رو بخواید در یه همچین پروژه‌ای من فکر میکنم کارگردانی از مرحله انتخاب ایده شروع میشه. ایده‌تونه که انتخاب میکنید از خودتون سوال میکنید چجوری میخوام اجرا کنم، اصلا شدنیه و به تدریج این وارد فیلمنامه هم میشه. موقعی که دارید می‌نویسید خود به خود به این فکر میکنید که این چقدر عملیه، اینو میتونم اجرا کنم، اینو کجا میتونم اجرا کنم. بنابراین پروسه ساخت خیلی زودتر از بقیه فیلم ها با کارگردان شروع میشه.
So I think in this situation, when you want to tell this kind of story, my work as a director begins actually with the choice of the idea. And then that seeps into the actual writing of the script, because you're constantly thinking, how can I actually shoot this? How can I make this? باشه گم شدم بعد از نوشتن گفتم که این وارد فیلمنامه میشه و بعد
خیلی زود کارگردانی شروع میشه از خیلی زودتر همین.
Okay, I'm so sorry, I got confused as to the ending, but basically what Mohammad's saying is that the whole directing process begins much sooner than it would in any other film.
با این حال به این معنا نیست که شما کنترلتون رو روی کار از دست میدید یا به دیگران واگذار میکنید. این شکل اجرایی این نوع کار فقط اینه که شما همون لحظه تو صحنه نیستید، ولی همون لحظه دارید تصویر رو میبینید و تمام در واقع نور، بازی، صدا و تمام عناصر تصویر رو هنوز میتونید تغییر بدید. منتها شکلی که توی صحنه مداخله میکنید از طریق دیگرانه، یعنی همون لحظه از طریق دستیارا شروع میکنید به تغییر دادن، در حالی که اگر به صحنه نزدیک باشید میتونید زودتر و آسونتر این کارو بکنید.
And of course, directing remotely does not mean in any way abandoning control of the image or even entrusting it to someone else. Simply the way that you implement, you enact your directing takes a different shape. Because throughout the filming, I was always seeing the image live through a monitor. So I was always guiding every single element of it, from, you know, the light to the acting to the sound, every other element of the image. But instead of being on set and doing it myself in a faster and more direct way, it meant sort of operating through the collaboration of my assistants.
به نظر میاد که تکنولوژی امروز به ما این امکان رو میده که خواست و اراده خودمون رو از راه دور هم اجرا کنیم. من فکر میکنم الهام بخش این موضوع دوران کووید بود که همه تصمیم گرفتن از راه دور خیلی کارا رو انجام بدن.
And of course, technology today affords us many new opportunities. And I think from this point of view, COVID was a great inspiration by forcing and prompting people to undertake so many different things remotely, so many different lines of work.
تنها چیزی که میتونم خیلی بیشتر روش تاکید کنم و اضافه کنم اینه که این شرایط خلاقیت گروه رو هم میطلبه. یعنی تو انتخاب افراد آدم باید دقت بیشتری داشته باشه برای اینکه بتونه به یه گروه خلاق و محکم برسه که جبران این فاصله رو بکنن. ولی با این حال روند کار کنتر میشه، با این حال احساسات سخت‌تر تبادل میشه توی صحنه و دشواری‌های خودشو داره.
One thing I'd really like to insist on is that, again, these circumstances require a very creative and cohesive group of collaborators. And that, of course, also determines how you choose your collaborators, because you then choose collaborators also specifically for their creativity. And the group was very strong and very united, but nonetheless, that meant that things went slower on set, and also that the exchange, the flow of feelings on set was more complicated.
Absolutely. Well, I have to wrap with you, but thank you so much for taking the time to do this. I've seen the movie twice now, and I look forward to seeing it again. And just there's many little moments that I think people will pick up on multiple rewatches. But everything that you've done for the film and for the community and talking about this movie, it's much appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thanks.